Hi everyone, I'm Rosalia,
My name is Olivier.
And I'm Valerie.
and we're the cats team. Don't adjust your sets, not those cats. If you want those cats, you can find them all over Facebook. We're career advising and transition services, and this is our second Facebook live session of the term. And today we're going to talk to you about job search don'ts. We could talk to you a lot about do's, and we could talk about a lot of don'ts, but we're going to focus on 5 of them today, and we're happy to bring that to you. If you have any questions, please, this will last about 20 to 30 minutes. Do not hesitate to write your questions up there on Facebook. Whether you do that now or you do that after, we will answer your questions. It'll be our pleasure. And feel free, comments, questions, anything that you might have. So as I said, we'll be talking for about 20 or 30 minutes. We'll address some 5 don'ts. Of course, there are many more, and we'll talk to you at the end of this if you want to enrich your learning about job search do's and don'ts, what to do, because we have a workshop series that we want to talk to you about and we hope to see you at. But for now, we want to cover these 5 things because they are important. This was a question that you sent to us, and we're happy to answer. So I think actually, I want to tell you at the beginning, and I'll repeat it at the end. If you want to reach us, you can reach us by email at cats@mcgill.ca or on our website at www.mcgill.ca/SCS, Our schedule of events and everything else about our CATS team and the goings on here can be found on our website. You could also sign up for our newsletter, so we hope to see you there. So I think we're ready to begin. Are you ready? All right. So who wants to start about one of our top 5s that we identified?
Well, sure. I'll start with the most common question that we receive, and it's also an observation that we've made on people when they are looking for jobs. They tend to send over 1,000 CVs, so they work really hard. They are looking for opportunities, and resiliency and then the work, hard working is definitely there because they stay home and then they apply. They put cover letters together. They send CVs after CVs to companies, and this is really, although it shows that you are putting the work in, but it's really not the way to go about it, right? You want to make sure that you target every CV that you send, and you also target the cover letter towards the positions that you're applying for. So if you are sending over 50 CVs a day, then it's really hard for you to do a great job. And also the most important part is, I don't know if you guys might have heard of the 80/20 rule. So the 80/20 rule is 80% of the jobs are posted, and then the 20% are not posted, sorry, right? And then you're really getting cracked or you at 20% of the jobs. So most of the work that you need to do is going to be through networking. Networking will have to be the way to go. You need to create relationship, build on those relationships, and nurture them. And you never know what might happen. So the don'ts here is, please do not send CVs like 20, 50 CVs a day because you're looking for a job. Spend more time in creating relationships, building them, and then when you are applying for a job, you should target um, your applications towards that position and not just send a CV that is just targeted for all jobs.
So it's a question of quality versus quantity, right?
Exactly.
And I think a lot of us get caught up in that, especially if you need a job, if you're searching for a job and you're job hungry, and you think I got to go out there and get a job. But sending 1,000 CVs takes a lot of effort. Probably will yield little, if no, rewards, because if you don't target them, as Olivier said, you're going to be one of several CVs, and it's generic in the sense that if you didn't take the time to research to the employer, you're just another person. So the effort you take into sending 1,000 CVs, instead, if you send 10, but you do the work and you customize it and you try to find out as much as you can about it and you write appropriate cover letters, the effort will yield better results, and you're only sending 10. So really the focus is on quality.
Quality.
Okay, do you have another one for us, Valerie?
Yeah, I do. Okay, so now you've applied and you happen to know who the hiring manager is. We see this a lot and we get a lot of questions as, how soon do you follow up? There's absolutely nothing wrong with following up, but don't stalk the hiring manager. Don't send LinkedIn messages. Don't then follow up by email. Don't start calling and leaving messages. Let them breathe. In any company, the hiring process can take time. It can take weeks. It can take months sometimes. It's okay to follow up once, but allow time for the person to respond.
Yes, it's like you want to be memorable, but you don't want to be memorable in the sense that here's the person who's trying to contact me everywhere.
Yes.
Certainly don't go look them up on Facebook or anything like that. That's intrusive.
Yes.
And I don't think it's going to get you anywhere, right?
No, definitely.
And Valerie, we're laughing, but you actually hear these as cases, right?
Yes.
The people who really, so you know, imagine you being on the receiving end of that. Like you haven't had a chance to go through the CVs yet, and you get a LinkedIn message, and the next day from the same person you get another one, and then they find you on Facebook, and then they find your phone number. It's just not a good idea.
No, it isn't.
So we would say apply and let them breathe. Like give them some room to breathe, and then they'll get back to you.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. And I'll cover one now, and it's about assumptions. I think in all aspects of life, we always say don't make assumptions, and in job search, that's no less true. So what do I mean by that? Well, I mean everything in all aspects. So for example, if you see a job ad, and you think, oh, well, they asked for 20 qualifications. I only have 17. I'll never get it. That's an assumption you're making. You have no idea why they put those 20 qualifications. It might just be this job, their job description was written 2 years ago and no one updated it because someone has since left. It could be that in their ideal situation, they would want those 20 characteristics or qualifications, but in reality, they know if they hit 14 or 15 that that's good. Also, you don't know the weight of the qualifications. There might be 20, but for them, 3 of them are much more important than the others. And you wouldn't know that because you're just making assumptions. If you see a job ad and it's something you're interested in and you think that you're generally qualified, don't make the assumption that you're not. There are a lot of assumptions we can make in the job search. Let's say you go to an interview and you're stuck in traffic or you're in an accident or something like that and you think, well, I'm late, I'm never going to get this job. It's better not to go at all, because some people have done that and they're embarrassed to then go. Then it is to call and explain or email. And yes, being late for a job interview is a definite don't, but life happens. And of course, if you're going to be late for whatever reason, don't make the assumption that you'll never get the job or that you shouldn't go. I mean, that's another assumption. And there are so many. Basically, if you have any doubt or any questions, go anyways. So for example, you're not sure you should go in the interview when you're late, go anyways. You're not sure that you should apply to something because you don't have the qualifications, do it anyways. Don't make any assumptions because they're not going to serve you at all.
So, yes, I'll add by take the job descriptions and you'll see, let's say, 10 requirements. The first 5 are the most important to the hiring manager. So the hiring manager send his requirements and HR fill out the whole descriptions with additional stuff for the ideal candidates. So if you meet the requirements of the first 5 requirements, that will be enough. Right, because this is exactly what those are the keywords that they are going to look for. Absolutely. And if you have them on your CV, then you can expect to get a call.
Yeah, absolutely. And another one that's important in Quebec, when you see language requirements and you see bilingual, don't assume that they mean perfectly bilingual. They can mean functionally bilingual, which is very different from fluently bilingual. But again, if you're not going to apply to something because you think, well, my French or my English, or whatever case may be, is not perfect. Well, unless it says fluently bilingual, oral and written, you're making assumptions about the rest. You might just need enough French to get by in the meeting or to have a phone call with a client. That's a far cry from writing a report in another language. So this is a perfect example in Quebec, and we get this question all the time. So what does bilingual mean? Well, we can't answer that question because it really depends on the employers. And remember that some employers write, again, bilingual because it would be their ideal situation, not necessarily their only situation. So many assumptions to be made, none of them good. So as we mentioned before, if in doubt, do it and go. All right, we have 2 more. We've covered 3.
Big questions so far. It's going by fast, actually.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we have some questions, some questions from the public.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the next question is we wanted to talk about how candidates need to be prepared, and it goes back to the first questions that talked about quality versus quantity. So if you send us 50 CVs a day, you will get some opportunities too. You will get companies that called you, and it's going to be impossible for you to be prepared for those calls, because you are just spending more time applying for jobs than you are really taking a look at the company, find any trends about the company, any information, what is the company's workplace culture. So when you get an interview, whether it's a phone call or on-site interview, often you might miss the opportunity because it shows that you were not ready. All right, so although you really wanted, you're working hard, you are qualified, you have everything, you speak many languages, you have the education, you have the experience, but because you showed up to McGill, for example, for a position, and you did not have all the time to prepare for this interview, so it shows that it's going to hurt you. And this is something that one thing that might happen is burning bridges. What do we mean by that? Is when you go to too many interviews, or for example, at one company you came to McGill, and then you had two different interviews and you were not ready. So now, when you are, 6 months from now, when your French is 100%, or when you are done with that diploma, and then you apply, then it's going to be tough for them to consider you again, because they've already seen you 2, 3 times and you were not prepared. So please do not burn bridges by just mass applying and not being prepared for the job interviews.
And imagine everything that's on your CV, everything that you've done, all your experience, all your education, your qualifications. You show up at an interview and you're unprepared, you haven't bothered to research anything about the company or the industry or the trends or what's going on in that area, or to look at the job description and maybe ask some critical questions. Everything you've done is going to be out the window if you then look unprepared. And that expression, you only have one chance to make a first impression, and that can't be more true in a job interview. And imagine it's a company you really want to work at. And maybe you're in an industry where there's maybe 5 or 6 companies in total in Quebec or in Montreal where you could work, and you burn your bridges, as Olivier said, by not being prepared. It's just not a good idea. Whatever else is going on, when you get that interview, take the time to research. And I think we have a question from Manon. Thank you for your question. It's, where's the best place to find out about the company other than the obvious Google or the company web pages? That's a great question.
Very great question. I think the first part is networking, connecting with people on LinkedIn who either work in the company to find out more about the environment there, the culture, what it's like to actually work for that company specifically. Not the hiring managers, but someone
that goes back to the
either
stalking.
works in a similar department or does similar work as to what you would like to do, and connecting with them.
And Valerie, how do you suggest that people do that? So let's say they don't know. So if Mamo doesn't know, wants to work at company X, doesn't know anybody there, and you say LinkedIn. So how could this person use LinkedIn to maximize their networking efforts?
It's a good question. I think LinkedIn is a very powerful tool. There's a lot of useful applications to it. A good way to do it is you could type in the name of the company and LinkedIn in the search function, and it'll bring up different types of people that work within that company. That's one way of connecting with people. And then also targeting that first message to that person as well, explaining why you want to connect with them.
Absolutely. And let's say that I'm on Valerie's LinkedIn, and I know that Valerie works at the company, or I see that one of Valerie's friends is connected to that company. I can email Valerie, and this happens all the time, so don't think this would be intrusive or awkward. I would ask Valerie, I see that your friend Deborah works at company X. Do you think that you would mind if she asks if I email her to ask if I could meet her or ask her questions or meet her for a coffee? This goes on in the world now, especially as we are so much more connected on social media. This happens all the time, and it's a great way to get insider information. Do you have other tips?
Well, yes, what you just mentioned, some call it as informational interviews, and it's a common practice. I just wanted to add that it is something that professionals are reaching out to other professionals just to get more information on what they are doing at at, their companies. It could be about, learning about the culture. It could be just trying to get information. So it does two things: get the information you want, and second is, plant a seed. Plant a seed where that, eventually that might grow, or they can refer you or introduce you to someone. But again, the company's website is really, that's where you start, definitely. And LinkedIn also, in a sense, where you can just, take a look at the company, and you can follow that company and see, the activities, things that they are involved in, and you can take a look at people that are working in the company. And then when you go to their profile, you can see the task, some of the stuff that they do. So that will give you a bit more information. But we do have, in our workshops, we go into details to explain how you find information about the industry, the different industries, and again, in different occupations. So if you are interested to know more about this, please feel free to go to our website and then register for one of our workshops. We have one Saturday that will cover exactly that. That's labor market prospects. So that will happen on Saturday. So
yeah, and all that's on our website. There are, of course, actually, Olivier, first, do you mind explaining what follow means on LinkedIn? So if you follow a company, what does that mean?
Well, following a company is, you just click you just type in the name of the company, and then it shows it will say follow. This is pretty much just like on Facebook or on Instagram. You will, once you follow that company, you will always see in your feeds information about the company. So those companies spend a lot of times, their marketing department spend a lot of, put a lot of information out there for people to get accustomed and know what the company is doing. So that's a great way to know a bit more about the companies that you are interested in. Follow them, and you will be, you'll have all the information.
Absolutely. Then there's third-party websites like Glass Ceiling, for example. I say, though, take that with a grain of salt. Don't read that. Glass Ceiling is where previous employees or current employees talk about their experience at a company. Of course, think of it like TripAdvisor, where a certain number of those may not be real. This is a reality that in those kind of cases where people give ratings, there are some fake ones. This happens all the time. But if you want a general idea, you could read that. Just don't make that the be-all and end-all of your search, because that's not a good idea. You could also, oh, sorry, go ahead, Olivier.
No, usually you were just mentioning, fake accounts, and that just made me laugh a little bit, since we have our next event next week.
That's right, it's true.
The changing landscape of PR and communications, and the topic of fake news will definitely be covered. So this is just me plugging.
Nothing wrong with that.
The next event
actually,
we have.
Momo, I hope you're available for that, because it'll be great. But it's true, I forgot, and excuse me, I don't remember the exact statistic, but an article came out about the number of TripAdvisor reviews that are actually fake. And I wish I could tell you the number, but look it up. It was actually made for a fascinating read, but it's a pretty high number. So anytime you're looking at those, a pretty high percentage, I should say. Anytime you're looking at those things, just keep all that in mind. Another thing you can do is just look up the company, not on their own website, but have they been in the news? By doing a search for news and just looking up the company, you could actually get on third-party websites, in news sites, and all other places. You can get some information that way. So I hope we answered your. Oh, you have more?
And Glassdoor.
Yes, I said Glass Ceiling. I meant Glassdoor. Totally other topic. Yes, Glassdoor. Don't look up Glass Ceiling. It's a depressing topic. Okay, so no, Glassdoor. And what is the name of the workshop? Sounds great. Okay, so you want to talk more about Saturday's workshop? It's we
will post the workshop, the title, and the link for them to be able to register for it this Saturday from 10 to 1.
Yeah, that's on the fake news. And if you meant the other workshop about labor market prospects in Quebec, then that's also on our website. It's on Saturday. It's easy to register, and just look at our website. If you have any questions, or you can't register, or you have any issues, email us at cats@mcgill.ca, and we'll be happy to help you, and we hope to see you there. But that was a great question. Thank you for sharing, because that brought up a lot of interesting things. So that's terrific. Okay, and now we're on our next question.
I think we had 5 don'ts, so we're on the 5th one. And we can't stress this enough. I think we repeat this often to a lot of the professionals that we deal with on a daily basis. Don't take it personally. If you don't get the job, it's not because of something you did personally. You might just not be the right fit. And in not being the right fit, it does not mean that there's something wrong with you either.
Yeah.
Right? There's thousands of people that are looking for jobs on a daily basis, and unfortunately, we all part of a number. And it is a numbers game. Eventually, you will get the right position that's for you. However, you know, when you get rejected or you don't get an answer, you applied and you didn't get a phone call, or you reached out to someone on LinkedIn and they didn't respond. They don't know who you are.
Yeah.
They don't know how wonderful you are, or the skills you have to offer. A lot of times, they might not have even seen your CV.
Yes.
You know, out of the pile that they had, they might not have been able to drill down to get to see what you have to offer. So don't take it personally.
Good points. And can you explain, Valerie, how that might work? How, if you apply, how the hiring manager might not even see your CV?
Well, there's different phases to the job search. A lot of times when a position is open in the company, the hiring manager will start asking colleagues or existing team members if they know anyone who would be an ideal fit. If they're not able to fill in the job that way, they might do a search on LinkedIn to find potential candidates through a skills search who have close to what they're looking for. At that point in time, a lot of times company extend the job posting internally first. And if they're not able to find an internal candidate, that's when you see it on Indeed. So by then, a lot of times they might have a short list of candidates. So although you might be perfect for the position and have a lot to offer, they might not actually get to your profile.
Yeah, absolutely. It has nothing to do with you. And I know, you know, hearing the word "you're not a good fit" is not an easy thing to hear. And I understand why someone might take it personally, but it doesn't mean you're not a good fit in the universe or in the world. You're not a good fit in that particular role for some, what I imagine are very specific reasons. And I think we've all experienced that. You know, every work has a particular work culture. And so because you don't fit it, that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you, as Valerie so eloquently said. It has nothing to do with you. It's just that fit is important, and there are certain things that make you fit or not. And if you don't fit in company A, you might fit at company B, but we're not all the same, which is
I really think it's just it's a jargon used. It's not necessarily because the person is not the right fit. It's more of they already find their best candidate. And now when you ask for feedback, they just tell you that you're not the right fit. It's really just because they don't want to tell you, well, there's nothing else to say. So they find something to tell you, but they already have the candidate that they wanted. Same as you are applying for jobs. You've had opportunity, you had job offers before, so where you were the fit. So other people were not that, the so-called fit. So it's more of it's really do not take it personal, because once the company, for whatever the reason, they believe like X person is the best fit for this position, then they just have to tell you something and be polite about it. And that's really what my 2 cents to it.
Yeah, and it's also, if you get an interview and you don't get the job, it's easy, of course, to get disappointed. But imagine on a regular job, regular posting, there might be 200-300 applications. You got an interview. You were one of their top 3 or 5 candidates. And you didn't get the job, yes, but you were still at the top of their list. So you have to congratulate yourself for every time a company calls you to screen you, and for every time you get an interview. And just because you don't get a particular job, that's not a statement on your skill, qualifications, or if they liked you. I don't know about you guys, but I've certainly been in a position where I've had to hire people, and if I have 2 or 3 thinking, wow, how can I make a decision? They're all fantastic. What do I do? And so this happens all the time. So not taking it personally is important, because also you don't want to be in a place where you're feeling down about yourself when you're job searching. That's the last place you should be. You don't get a job, you move on. It means it wasn't the right one, right? So we have a lot of comments here. So thank you for your shout outs from Naz, who says, thank you for keeping us posted. It's our pleasure. And a thumbs up from Simone, thank you. And Ben says, hello, Cats team. I missed your live Facebook work workshops, keep it up. We will work it up, and we will keep it up. And if you have any questions or things that you want us to cover, please let us know. And Simone says, after many applications, it's good to hear this. Yes, and believe me, I think I'm going to speak personally, and I'll let them answer. I have had times in my life when I was looking for work, and it's easy to get discouraged. It's easy to take things personally, but things happen when they're supposed to happen, and it's a question of timing. It might take a long time, but you'll get there. And I know it's not easy, but it's important to keep your spirits up. And you know what? Networking plays a big role in that. You're looking for work, connect with other people who are looking for work, who are in the same situation as you, and talk about some of your struggles, but you'll get there. And she also asked, Simone, what is the best way to ask for feedback?
It's a very good question. I think it's the phase of, it depends on what phase you are. So if after your last interview, and it should not be the first question that you ask when they said, do you have any question for us? It shouldn't be, the first question you ask should not be, so what is the next step, right? You should definitely have more questions for them. And that shows how prepared you are. But after you've asked those questions, you should definitely know how what's going to be the next step, and if you are not the right candidate, can you please get some feedback, because you would like to continue. You would like to use that feedback to use for another opportunity. So I would say that after the interview, but
by email, Olivier, or how would you say that Simone should best do that? So she, let's say, knows she did not get a position that she interviewed for. So she should email the people who interviewed her, for example?
Yes, well, if she did not mention that before in the interview, after the interview, she would have their email address,
right.
And she would just write a nice note to say, well, thank you very much for welcoming me and give me an opportunity to interview for the position. I'm really interested, and you kind of give a little bit more detail why you think that you're a great candidate, or you are really interested in this position. But I would be grateful if you could give me some feedbacks. I think by email would be the best way.
Yeah. And if I could add too, that's similar to what you said before. Sometimes you have 3 or 4 really good candidates, and unfortunately you can only pick one. And sometimes there is no feedback to give, right? A lot of times it's a difficult decision for hiring managers to make. And it's not that there's something that you need to do differently, it's just it wasn't the position for you. So a lot of times in that situation, it's very difficult for that person to write a critique back. So
yeah, that's true. And especially in the case where you were great, you were just not the one person selected, but you were fantastic. But Simone, good for you for asking that question, because it shows that you're brave, that you want feedback, right? You're not just like, well, I should have been hired, I was the best person. You want feedback on what can I do better next time. And I think if you're going to email people who interview and ask that question, that looks good on you. So I would counsel that you continue to do that. I think it's only good. And Mamo says, so when a thank you letter would be fine? And again, it depends on the phase. Do you want to cover that?
This is a very good question, and this is exactly where the first part. This is when you ask for the feedback. So after the interview, and then 24 hours to 48 max after the interview, you would send a thank you letter welcoming any feedback we got. If you get in the position or not. So this is not a common practice. So there's something very good if any candidate could take the time to send a thank you letter after every on-site interview. So very good question.
Yeah, and you could also do it too. Your thank you letter could be strictly a thank you letter. And then if you find out that you didn't get a job, you say again, thank you for the opportunity, et cetera, et cetera. By the way, I was really interested in your company. I was wondering, have we kept you in suspense long enough? We're so sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties, but we're going to continue on with that question, which was, do you ask for feedback in a thank you letter? Is that okay? So that was the question which we're going to continue to answer. And it was Valerie who was talking, so our apologies. Go ahead, Valerie.
No, it's Olivier.
Oh, it was Olivier?
Yeah.
Yes, it was. You were actually talking about. Yeah.
We were all talking.
You were talking about how you could address the
Yes.
feedback question
Yeah.
through the thank you letter or after.
Yes, absolutely. Either one. And it's all, I think it's great that you would do that, and that some people will give you feedback, because maybe there is something that in your interview. Let's say some people, and I've seen this before, right? Have you ever interviewed somebody who doesn't smile?
Yes.
Okay, so this is, you think, okay, look at my wonderful CV. I mean, wow, who cares if I smile? Well, things like that matter. So you might get the feedback that and they're not going to say you didn't smile, but they're just going to say, well, you didn't seem that enthusiastic, let's say, because a smile means you're having a good time. You think what's going on
You're
here in the interview is
excited.
interesting. You're excited.
Yeah.
And so by you not smiling, right, you're giving a message. So you might get feedback that's actually quite helpful, because you don't know what you're like in an interview. It's hard to evaluate yourself. But what I can say about that is you can contact us, actually. If you have an interview, we'd be happy to run through a mock interview with you, and we can give you feedback. So that's another way that you can practice your interview skills, because it's not that easy. And we will give you a mock interview and then go through with you some of the things that we think you did well and some of the things that maybe need improvement. Email us if you would like to do that, especially if you have a job interview coming up. And any of the three of us will be happy to do that with you. But that might make you more comfortable too, because if you practice before, on the day, it might be a little less daunting to know that you've gotten through. And we ask you a variety of different questions. You can send us the job posting for which you applied and have an interview, and we will ask you questions that are relevant to that. So we're happy to do that, as I said, because everybody could use some practice in an interview. And interviews are not, for some people, they're excessively nerve-wracking, which means if you're so nervous, it's hard to be yourself, right? And so this is why you might not perform well in interviews, even though you might be the ideal candidate. So you want to work this muscle, right? And practice until you excel. So we'll be happy to help you with that. You can even ask your friends to just ask you a couple of questions in a scenario. That could also work. So great. Okay, anything else? Okay, we've covered 5 don'ts. There are so many more don'ts, but more importantly, there are so many more do's, which is why we'd love to invite you to our job search series. So right now we're in the middle of our professional transition series, our next workshop series, which is offered both on weekdays and on Saturday mornings. So depending on your schedule, we have availability for both. And this series focuses on mostly the do's and some of the don'ts of your job search. And if you are currently in a job search, or even if you're finishing up a program, or you'll be in a job search soon, or if you have a job right now, but eventually or soon you want to look for another job, this job search series is for you. Now, I'm new to CATS. I just started in July. So would Valerie, Olivier, one of you talk a little bit about this job search series and how it could help you, people looking for a job?
Sure. Well, this is more targeted. The first workshops, is more about helping people position themselves better by getting a lot of information on industries and occupations, so they could know when they have an interview with a candidate, with an employer, they can sound a lot different. But the job search series is more focused on, first workshop is the perfect pitch. So when you meet someone, when you go for an interview, the first question they usually ask you, so tell me about yourself. When you meet someone in an elevator, same thing. When you meet someone in a networking event. So this is your opportunity to make that, that's first impression. And so the first workshop kind of focus on that. The second one is how to optimize the use of LinkedIn. So we, show you how to present yourself better. Then we take LinkedIn and we kind of cover it and see, and also show you how to use it, how to create relationships, how to create more visibility on social media, and then that will give you a lot more opportunities, since we want you to spend less time applying for jobs. So you need to spend most of your time networking. Mm-hmm. And the final 2, workshops or interview skills in practice. So we break down what's the word? Demystifying.
Yes.
Right? The questions, and we answer the questions behind the questions. So when they ask you, when they bring you for an interview and they say, so you are overqualified, what are your thoughts? So they already called you for the interview, so they already know that you are overqualified. Mm-hmm. So we won't give the answer now. We'll We'll
Yes.
welcome you to the workshops, to the job search series, where we'll be able to answer all those questions for you.
Excellent. And I will be giving that workshops on Saturday mornings, and Olivier will be delivering those during the week. So check our website for the schedule, and we hope to see you there. We also want to talk about another event, which Olivier already touched on, but we have something called Influencers Talk. Valerie, do you want to explain just what that is?
So it's a new name for
Mhm.
our speaker series, where we invite influential people within the business industry from different industries. So the one on Tuesday, October 16th at 6 p.m. focuses on PR and communications. So the title of this Influencers Talk is The Changing Landscape of PR and Communications from Traditional to Digital. So we have a lineup of 4 exceptional speakers
Absolutely.
who are professionals in the industry who will come and give their insight on fake news, branding, from corporate branding to personal branding, and different topics therein. So it's an excellent opportunity to get more information about the PR and communications industry. It's also an equally exceptional opportunity to meet like-minded professionals where you can exchange ideas and continue to expand your network.
Over a glass of wine, I
Over a
might
glass
add.
of wine.
Oh.
So we have set it up as a 5 à 7 type of event,
Yes.
even though it's a 6 à 9. There'll be wine and refreshments, opportunities for networking, as
Yeah.
Valerie said. Never miss an opportunity to network. And really, our lineup of speakers, we're sure the evening is going to be fantastic, and it's going to be taught by Elias Makos, who you might know from Breakfast Television. So that's going to be great. And what better topic these days than discussing fake news? What's more timely than that? So I think, unless Valerie and Olivier have anything else to add? No?
No.
So it's been our pleasure. We hope you sat there with a nice cup of coffee and your lunch, and you welcome Simone, who thanks us, and that you enjoyed this Facebook Live session. I know I enjoyed it, and it's always our pleasure to bring these to you. As I said, even though this is over, you might be watching this tomorrow or next week, post your questions. We're going to definitely still answer them. You could also keep in touch by email at cats@mcgill.ca. And yes, if you're wondering, we have gotten some strange email at that address. But do email us there, or go on our website, which I mentioned before, was mcgill.ca/scs-careers. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.